What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the best smartphones with a headphone jack for going into 2022. These are for my die-hard headphone users that really need a dedicated headphone jack. So first off, in my opinion, the best on the list is still the LG V60, coming at 300 bucks. Absolutely crazy for that price. You're getting a flagship phone and just a bunch of crazy specs. So we get a really nice build quality on here. Aluminum frame, glass back, IP68 dust and water resistant. Phone just feels like a tank. We do have a headphone jack on here with a quad DAC as well. So if you have a high quality pair of headphones, you can really get some awesome audio out of this phone. You also have really amazing sounding stereo speakers as well too. Great bass, good mids and highs, extremely loud as well. It is a pretty big phone with a 6.8 inch POLED display. It's HDR10 plus, 1080p 395 for the PPI. Overall, just a beautiful display, but it doesn't stop there. You can actually, for 100 bucks, if you go on eBay, get a dual screen case attachment to this phone and turn it into two phones if you are a power user. Now, the V60 does have Android 11 running the Snapdragon 865 and Adreno 650. It is on LG's update list as well to get Android 12, so I'm going to be excited for that next year. Micro SD support, 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM is on board with this guy. We also have NFC under the display fingerprint scanner, which is fine. It's a little, it's not the fastest, but it's fine. It works. And you also have a triple camera setup, a 64 megapixel standard, 13 megapixel ultra wide, and a 0.3 depth sensor, 8K video with a 10 megapixel selfie cam that also shoots in 4K. Overall, you get some pretty nice quality photos. To me, still flagship level photos with the V60, so I really do like the cameras on here still. Also, video is pretty solid on the V60 as well. And you also get a really massive 5,000 milliamp battery with excellent standby time and overall just really great battery life. In addition to that, of course, you get fast charging and wireless charging as well. So the V60 is definitely my favorite on this list. Now next is the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, an older flagship that is just awesome. It's really impressed me this year. You can get this for around 300 even, and it does have a really nice design. So I still think this is a very classic design. Aluminum frame, glass back, IP68 dust and water resistant, beautiful dynamic AMOLED display at 6.4 inches HDR10 plus. It's a full 1440p display or 2K display, 522 for the PPI. Overall, just a really beautiful panel on here. It does have the double punch hole, which you can have a lot of fun with the wallpapers. This phone is upgradable to Android 11, and it also will be getting Android 12 as well. The Snapdragon 855 is on board with the Adreno 640. Guys, this phone is still very powerful, so it doesn't really matter what you're doing on this phone. It's still going to run very fast. It's going to be able to play games at max settings. It is still very impressive. So I really do love the speed and performance on this phone. Micro SD support is on board, 128 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM on this model here. And like I said, stereo speakers on board with this guy with a headphone jack. Now it's not a quad DAC, but the headphone jack is there, so it feels like one of the most complete Samsung phones that they've released. Also, the speaker setup is also pretty good, very loud, crisp and clear speakers tuned by AKG. Also, this phone does have NFC. It's also got an under the display fingerprint sensor, which works very fast. Samsung desktop support is on here, and you do have pretty decent cameras, a triple camera setup, 12 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel telephoto with a 16 megapixel ultra wide. It does shoot in 4K 60 along with that dual camera setup, 10 megapixel standard, and then 8 megapixel wide, shoots in 4K 60 as well. Overall, you get some pretty decent shots with the S10 Plus. Definitely not complaining at this price point. You also have a pretty decent sized battery, a 4,100 milliamp battery, 15-watt charging with fast charging and reverse wireless charging as well, which is really cool. Battery life is pretty good on the S10 Plus, so overall this is an awesome phone to consider. Next is the Asus Zenfone 8. So this is a newer compact flagship phone. It'll cost you around 600 bucks, so it is a little bit expensive. I think around 650. I'll have all the links down below, but I really like this phone this year. It's got an aluminum frame and it has a glass back. It feels really solid. IP68 dust and water resistant as well. It's got a beautiful 5.9-inch Super AMOLED display at 120 Hz, so you get that really smooth refresh rate. It's also a very bright display, coming in at 1100 nits peak brightness. You do have a 1080p display, and then it's 446 for the PPI punch hole on the left hand side. So overall, it was a very nice display. Running Android 11 with the Zen UI, with the Snapdragon AAA processor and the Adreno 660. Pretty much a powerful phone when it comes to doing anything, whether you're hardcore multitasking, trying to game at max settings. There's nothing that this phone won't be able to do, so you're getting top tier flagship level performance on here. There's no SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM. This phone does have very amazing sounding stereo speakers as well. Excellent bass, especially for the size of this phone. It's actually kind of shocking. Also, you do, of course, get the headphone jack, which was a really nice addition. They did not have to do that, but I'm really glad that they did. They do have NFC on this guy with the fingerprint scanner on the display. It is very fast, no issues there. Also, a pretty good camera setup. I did not see the complaints with the cameras. I think after software updates, you really, there's no complaints. I still think it takes great cameras for the price. 64 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 8K video at 24 frames, which is crazy, and then a 12 megapixel standard that shoots in 4K 30. Overall image quality, like I said, was pretty good to me. You also have a 4000 milliamp battery with 30-watt charging and reverse charging, so the battery life on here is really not that great, which I was expecting, but it does charge pretty fast with the 30 watts, but your battery life is like 4 hours and 30 minutes, so it's not that great. I think it has a lot to do with the high refresh rate and the battery being so small, but it is what it is, but still nonetheless a great phone. Alright, so next is the ROG Phone 5. So this is an awesome gaming type of phone. So it comes in at a range of like 650 to 700. Again, those links will be down below. Full premium design. It's really decked out with the gamer design, with the RGB lights, with the pressure sensitive gaming triggers on here. Beautiful 144 Hz AMOLED display at 6.7 inches, 1080p 395 for the PPI. That's a beautiful display with no notch, no punch hole. Android 11 with the ROG UI, Snapdragon AAA processor. So if you do a lot of gaming, you can play at the highest settings, and this phone is really not going to get hot at all. So I was really impressed with that. This phone does not have any SD card support, but there is a 256 gig model that I guess they have to sell you up on, and 128 gig model. You have your 8 and 12 gig of RAM configurations, and then you have these crazy sounding speakers. They're two dedicated amplifiers, and it reminds me of the ROG Phone 2 or 3. So basically, the speakers are front facing and they just sound amazing. Bass, everything just sounds like super clear, everything coming at you. It is a really awesome speaker experience. And also, I believe this phone does have the quad DAC as well, so you get very high quality audio listening, NFC, as well as the under the display fingerprint sensor. Cameras are not super impressive on here. It's a triple camera setup from what I've seen. 64 megapixel standard, 13 megapixel ultra wide, 5 megapixel macro with 8K video, and then you have a 24 megapixel selfie that shoots in 1080p. Most people don't buy these phones for the cameras anyway, so it's not a big deal, but cameras, if you get enough light, you'll get a decent shot. You do have a crazy 6000 milliamp battery with 65-watt charging. So battery life, if you are just a normal light user and you just get this phone because you just want great battery life, you can easily get 2-3 days easy. So this is easily one of the best battery performers of the year as well, so take that into consideration too. So overall, ROG Phone 5 is still an awesome phone. Last, I think, is extremely underrated, the Pixel 5a 5G. Very underrated mid-ranger here, which gives you, flagship level quality stills, which is absolutely crazy. And I believe this won the blind smartphone test as well, so that just says a lot about the camera on this phone. You have an aluminum frame, aluminum back on here, IP67 dust and water resistant, OLED display at 6.34 inches, 1080p 415 for the PPI. Overall, just a really nice panel. No high refresh rate, but really not a big deal since this runs stock Android and it just performs very smoothly. You are going to get the latest version of Android when it comes out in a timely fashion, which is something that we all love. Snapdragon 765G on board, Adreno 620. Not a gaming phone, not super powerful chipset, pretty much a mid-range tier chipset, so you can expect casual gaming performance, like web browsing, social media, all very smooth. No SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and then you have very good stereo speakers on here as well. Great bass quality, great mids and highs, overall super clean sound. And you also get the headphone jack as well as NFC on board. Physical fingerprint scanner on the back works fine, no issues there. The sale with this one is definitely the flagship cameras, 12.2 megapixel standard, 16 megapixel ultra wide, 4K video at 60 frames, and then an 8 megapixel selfie cam, 1080p. Beautiful flagship quality photos, whether you're in good lighting, low lighting, it is going to give you a great shot. And it's just very impressive this year. Again, one of the most slept on phones I think that has come out this year. You also have very good battery life on here, 4,680 milliamp battery. I did not struggle with battery life. I was able to get a full day easy out of this phone, no problem. So the Pixel 5a 5G is definitely a great phone to consider. So what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know. I'll catch you guys in the next one.